Software, I like it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Very simple. If anyone can do it, I can do it. Hey, everybody, it's Lisa Copeland. Good morning. It's Monday morning, and welcome to your best 365 ever with Lisa Copeland and my esteemed guest, Mr. Troy Springs, CEO of Dealer World. Looks like we're going to have some people jumping on here in just a second. So anyways, Troy, what's the weather like up there? We're going to talk until we load up here.
Yeah, no, it's a little cooler this morning than it has been. It's only going to be about 60 or so today, but the last 3 weeks where I live, it's been perfect weather. We're, 70s, 74, 78 maybe. It's just, I've actually just been in love with the weather lately and a little bummed that it's going to start getting a little colder right now. It's been perfect.
Well, good. Well, we've got all kinds of people jumping on this morning. For those of you just jumping on, it's Lisa Copeland. Welcome to your best 365 ever with my good friend and guest this morning, Troy Spring, the CEO of Dealer World. And boy, do we have some stuff to talk about today. So we've got Christopher, Michelle, Janelle, Anthony, James, Keith, Sandra, Laura, Joe, Josh, Terry, everybody's jumping on here. So we are going to talk today about how to get unstuck and how to have your best 365 ever starting today. So if you know somebody who needs to hear this or see this or just is stuck, go ahead and share this out, because sharing is caring, and you want to share this show out so that everybody who you love and you care about can get unstuck. Because Troy, I think that's part of the misconception about, here we are, like tomorrow's October 1st. So we're officially into Q4 as of tomorrow. And how many times, and, let's just be real, that we say, you know what, man, I'm going to start doing that in January.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's I have a joke that I'm going to join the procrastinators club next week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good way to break the ice with somebody when you're talking about just let's get going.
Yeah, it gets down to one of those things. It is like, let's just do it, right? Let's just do it. It's kind of like the Nike commercial, and let's get started. And that's why I kind of restarted my show on Monday mornings, because I have people call me and they contact me all the time. They're like, Lisa, I've got this great idea, or, hey, I want to do this. When should I start? I'm like, no better time than now.
Yeah, right now. Jump in.
Right now. You want to be a wantrepreneur or an entrepreneur? You got your choice. But 30 days from now, if you're still talking about it, it's a pipe dream. 30 days from now, if you've at least put your toe in the water, you're moving.
Years and years ago, I had a dealer friend of mine refer a book to me, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was called Quantum Leap. Mm-hmm. And one of the great things in that book was jump before you're ready. You know, because too many people spend so much time preparing to be ready. And they're like, well, my offering's not perfect, or the timing's not right, and boy, am I glad he gave me that. I've basically lived my life like that since I read that book. I'm not ready, but I'm going to jump because I kind of believe in where I'm going. And you have to. You can't. There's no possible way to ever be 100% prepared. So you got to jump in, get rolling. You learn so much along the way that and you have that much more of an advantage over somebody who's waiting. You've already got 6 months in, 6 weeks in, 6 days in, whatever the case might be. But yeah, I agree with you. Entrepreneur, just get going, get started, get rolling.
Yeah, perfection is the absolute enemy or procrastination and perfection are the absolute enemy of moving things forward. Okay, we got a boatload of people on now.
That's awesome. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, so Troy, introduce yourself. Tell everybody about Troy Spring.
Wow.
I just kind of a snapshot. I was up in Pennsylvania hanging out with you and your team, who are now our partners, and just amazed at the operation that you run, that the life that you live in this small town USA. So I want you to tell everybody about Troy Spring and Dealer World. And I'm going to jump in maybe and ask questions.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty simple. I started selling cars when I was 18 years old. I'm 51 now, so do the math. I've been doing this a long time. I was a top salesman. I was a desk manager. I was an F&I guy. The height of my retail career, I ran 4 stores. So, I had general managers that reported to me, and I reported to the VP of that company. Loved retail. It was great. It was good to me, and I learned an awful lot. But one of the things that I learned when I was in retail and running stores in particular was what I was best at was driving traffic. And it's also what I enjoyed the most. I really enjoyed coming in on a Saturday morning and seeing a lot full of traffic, salespeople that were busy, I mean, we got to the point, there were times I had to hire sleight of hand magicians and things of that nature just to keep customers at bay and as they waited for a salesperson.
And let me ask you this, is that because you at that point already had the secret sauce on how to drive traffic?
You know what? I have good instincts, I would say. To be fair, I didn't have the secret sauce then, but I had good instincts to say, I want this type of ad agency, to work with. So I went after the type of ad agency that I wanted. We were very, very, very aggressive. And I worked a very simple formula. When I would get asked by people back in those days, as I kind of move forward and tell you a little bit more about who I am now, but that really shaped me. That period of time in my life really shaped me because I think by accident, I just kind of did things so simple. I didn't make more of it than it was. And the dealerships I ran were very successful. I mean, I had a kind of a track record saying, hey, if I touched a store, it went the right direction. I never had one go the wrong direction. So, and people would say, how'd you do it? And I would say, it's a pretty simple formula. You drive loads of traffic to a very, very highly skilled team, which I was also capable of doing. Very lucky and fortunate. I had a lot of good mentors early in my life. I knew how to build a sales team. I knew how to train them. I knew how to get results from them. So you just drive a lot of traffic to a really highly skilled sales team. And then the simple part of this other formula is just make sure they have cars to sell. Make sure they have inventory. Make sure they have a good inventory. Mm-hmm. And so if you do it that way, I've spent my whole career trying to teach dealers and managers and anybody that I mentor, like, stop going in the morning and thinking it's more difficult than that. It's not more difficult than that. Drive loads of traffic, loads of leads to a highly trained sales staff, give them product to sell, sit back and watch the results. It's that easy.
And you and I have talked about the fact that selling cars solves everything. It just solves every problem in the world when you're in the auto industry. Now, Troy, there's a lot of people on here that are not in the auto industry, so I want to pivot a bit.
Sure.
So, the way that I really built this up in this interview is the fact, first of all, congratulations on all the success of Dealer World. I had the honor of being up there last week, and wow, I mean, two big offices, 30 plus, 35 on staff.
30, yeah, a little over 30.
Yeah,
Not
30
quite
on
35.
Yeah, 30 on staff, Mac computers on the desks, everybody's working, watching the magic of between technology and design and all the things that you all do. And what a cohesive team that you've built, and a smart team. And like I said, you guys.
By the way, I'm going to interrupt you there. Coming from you, especially because you were here and spent some time with us, it really means a lot. I mean, I think that we have built exactly what you just described, and it's really good to hear it from an outsider.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. In fact, to the point where it's like kudos to your team, because all weekend long, emails were flying back and forth between your team and my team for our tomorrow, October 1st launch, which I can hardly stand. I'm so excited. And
hey, by the way, want to know the best part about that? That's not demanded, right? So the cool part is they just do it because. We have an awesome team of people that care. Yeah,
Danielle and Rhonda, who is our graphic designer, and Rhonda is the Cars Her Way customer success manager. All weekend long. I mean, we never asked him to work. I never did. Hear from him. I didn't expect.
I literally sometimes say to them, guys, it's the weekend. I'll talk to you Monday. But they just don't know to stop because we have a lot of work to do. They know it's important work. And I'm just extremely fortunate that most of our staff feels that way. It's awesome.
Well, and a lot of times, Troy, it's the pace of the leader. So going back to, you have built this very successful agency. You guys have a huge book of business. But you built it in small town USA. I mean, when I talk small town USA, I don't even know that I saw a Dairy Queen.
No, gosh, no, we don't have a Dairy Queen. So,
all stop signs, not stoplights. So, so you think of the level of work that you all do. I think about the level of clients that you have that are a super big deal, including now Cars Her Way. And you all produce Madison Avenue type results, drive leads, all the things that you do, but you're sitting in small town USA. So kind of take us on that journey on how Troy Spring and Dealer World ended up in Lehighton. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Lehighton, right. Yeah. Don't call it Layton. It's Lehighton.
I know. I wanted to.
A lot of people call it Layton.
I'm telling you.
Anyways.
But how did you end up there? Because, the ego would have put you in, I don't know, somewhere else, right? Other than Lehighton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so that's also a pretty simple story. Hey, I'm a simple guy. You spent some time with me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of what you see is what you get. And I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, Keene, New Hampshire. So I spent 29 years of my life in a very small town, raised by conservative New England parents. And yeah, I ended up really loving the car business, and I got into this kind of fast-paced, crazy world. But I still love small town living. I always hashtag a lot of my post around my house, hashtag living in the woods.
Literally living in the woods.
Oh yeah, I live in the woods. And I like it there, right? So it's very peaceful. I met a girl, you met Brittany.
I love Brittany.
Yeah, Brittany's whole family's from Lehighton. How I met her was, I told you about the Ford store that I ran for a little while. And that was an awesome opportunity that I had. So I was in Lehighton an awful lot. When I ran the 4 stores that I talked about, a couple of them were in Lehighton area. So I had spent a lot of time up this way. And then when I met Brittany, I just fell in love with the town, fell in love with the whole deal. And so we ended up here in Lehighton. And the reason we have 2 offices is it's really hard to find office space here. So to find a place that we felt would be conducive and big enough and comfortable for all our employees, the best option was 2 offices. And but that's how we ended up here. I fell in love with a girl here. She helped me build this business, and we just we do business all over the country, but I like being in this small town. So.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Well, leading up to this interview, one of the things that I advertised about you, or I talked about the fact, is that Dealer World was started when you were pretty down on your luck. And you had $64 in change.
$65. Yeah, you're off by $1, but that's okay.
Okay, $65 in change, literally. And
no, it's no joke.
now
like,
you
people
built
think
this
that's a joke.
multi-million-dollar company. Tell us about that, because there's somebody out there, Troy, that needs to hear that story today. There's somebody out there who's just sitting there going, man, like, you know what? I don't know what to do. I'm down to my last few bucks and I'm a loser. I'm a failure. And that's not true.
Well, I did feel that way. I mean, I told you that if you wanted to do this interview, that I would be really blunt and open. And you sat in that. Yeah. So look, I was going through a divorce. It was 2008, 2009. The economy hit us really, really hard. I had, as I said, at the height of my retail career, running 4 stores. Anybody on this interview that's watching this knows what kind of money somebody, makes in those types of jobs. So I had a great job. Life was good. And then when the economy hit the skids, I took about a 55% cut in pay 10 years ago. And it was just brutal. And so I couldn't really keep up with our bills, because I had the bills of a guy that was making, double, almost triple sometimes what I had been making in 2008, 2009. So I just systematically went through my money. I mean, I went through IRAs, I went through everything. Like I said, went through a pretty, costly divorce. Very close with all my ex and my kids, and everything's fantastic, wonderful. Life is good there. But at the time, it was ugly. And so I literally walked into a Coinstar with $70 worth of change, dumped it in, got my voucher. It was for $65, walked out. And I told you the story. I haven't told the story in a long time. I feel like it's getting a little bit old and less relevant, but you asked me to tell it, so I'll tell it again.
It's always relevant, Troy, because there's somebody out there that is in that position right now. I promise you.
Well, if there's somebody in that position right now, I would just say, look, I mean, the decision I made that day when I only had $65 was this. My son wanted ice cream. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, it gives me chills up my spine right now to talk about it, honestly. But I walked out. My son was 4 years old. He saw an ice cream place. He wanted an ice cream. I then had $61. And I was quite pissed because I love ice cream, right? So I didn't get one for myself, thinking I need the $61. So I sat there watching my kid eat an ice cream. And I kind of said, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm not a loser. I don't know how I ended up here. My nickname's Turbo. People called me Turbo. I literally said, I'm not living up to that nickname. And I'm not living up to being the father that I want to be, the person I want to be, the friend that I want to be, the leader I want to be. And I just, I had an epiphany moment. I had a click moment that I talk about a lot, which was, I'm done. I'm over it. And From that point forward, I made a very conscious decision to say, I just need to start making really good decisions in my life, one after another. And in Turbocharge Your Life, the book that I wrote, I kind of wrote how well I thought that process worked, because I started to feel like good decisions had the power of compounding interest. Meaning, like if I made one good decision, hung out with the right person, or went and did the right thing, and then, worked out, ate better, felt better about myself. It was this whole thing where all of a sudden my life opened up to, holy smokes, this is 100 times better than it was even a year ago. And so it really just starts with making good decisions at the end of the day.
Okay,
and I had made some bad decisions. I'm pretty open about that. Like I had made some bad decisions. So, you have to own that too. You have to own that and own up to it. Say, I made a bad decision. Some people with too big of an ego can't say that. I think that's step one is, look, I made some bad decisions. My life's not going the direction I want it to go. Stop blaming other people. It's nobody else's fault but your own if it's not going the direction you want it to go.
Right. So you had $61 in your pocket, and you don't just say, okay, I mean, I'm sure you said I'm going to start making good decisions, but what did you do with the $61? How'd you parlay that? Tell us. I mean, Dealer World now is a huge company. You guys were on the 5,000 Inc. Award-winning, over 30 employees. I've been there. I've seen it with my eyeballs. You're not outsourcing anything like most people have to do. I mean, You're the real deal. But
thanks. And by the way, I see Frank's taking credit for your quote. So good morning, Frank.
Yeah. Frank's so full of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's so full of it. But anyways.
That's pretty funny. So yeah, people ask me what was the hardest thing I did to build this company, and it was hiring my first employee. That is a very so there were a lot of things that kind of led up to that. I got lucky. I'm a heck of a sales guy. I went out, I sold some direct mail. We really started as a direct mail company. So I was very fortunate that kind of that day that I said, I'm done. I was 3 months in. Dealer World was 3 months old when I had $65. That's the kind of chronological order. So it started January 9th, 2009. It was in April of 2009. I was down to my last $65. The economy was horrendous. I wasn't going to get another job.
2009 to start an advertising agency that focuses in automotive. I would have to question your timing on that one.
Well, see, here's the thing. Beware the man that has nothing to lose. I mean, I had nothing to lose. I couldn't go find another job making the money that I was making because they just weren't around. Those jobs weren't available in 2009. Or I'd have had one. Like I used to go to my managers. I managed a lot of people at that time, and I'd go to them and say, guys, look, it's not you. We didn't wake up and all of a sudden stuck at this. Like, I'm not going to, I didn't manage through that by telling people, you got to sell more, you got to do, no, I just kind of it was reality. You had to kind of, sit back and look at it and say, I don't just blow at this. Like 2008, 2009 was rough. Terrible. And so when I sat down at my desk, and here's something for somebody listening at that spot. When I sat down at my desk, I sat down at my desk at home. I took out a blank piece of paper. Remember, I wasn't an ad agency at the time. I was just selling direct mail. So I took out a blank piece of paper and I said, I better write the best mailer on the planet because nobody's buying anything right now. So if I need to create something dealers can use in this horrible economy. I need to create something they'll believe in. I need to create something they'll buy. So therefore, it's a win-win. I make a living, I survive, and the dealer thrives. So I literally did it with a blank sheet of paper. And I was one of the first guys, quite frankly. I mean, I'm sure somebody would rebut this, but I think I was.
Probably will. I'm sure that he's going to say that he came up with it.
Yeah, Frank. So if Frank came up with it, I'm cool with it because I like Frank. But I came up with one of the first micro sites with a mailer. So we would do this thing, like my first million-piece seller, I call it, was overstockedcarlots.com. So back in 2009, we built a website called overstockedcarlots.com. I had no money. I got the logo done for me on 30 Days Net. I had the graphics done by somebody that just owed me a favor. I got the website built by a guy who I gave $500 to every time I sold the sale. Because I didn't have the money to build the site.
Dang.
So I had no money, and all of a sudden I had this website called overstockcarlots.com. It held inventory. I mean, this is back in 2009. So it held inventory, it had lead gen, it had everything I needed to go into a dealer and say, look, when you drop direct mail right now, you're sitting back and kind of hoping it works. And that's why nobody was buying it, because they were like, we can't afford to spend money on hope right now.
Right.
And what I created in 2009 that saved me, and I'm going to just back up and say that again, it literally saved me. I needed something to sell. So I would go to dealers and say, I've got tracking on the phones, I've got tracking on the website. We're going to generate leads.
Back then was unheard of for mail.
Back then it was very unheard of, and that's why it worked. So, and then I would literally go to the dealership and I would go and make sure it worked. So I would show up at the dealership, I'd get the list of the leads, and I'd start dialing the phones. And I ended up selling about 600 of those sales. So it worked. And that's how Dealer World got its roots and started back again in 2009. And then fast forward to that, funny story. I was in Vegas. I was sitting next to a guy, fantastic gentleman. He said he hated his ad agency. I said I wanted to be an ad agency. And they gave me a chance when I had one employee, me. So I got hired by a 2-store group to be their ad agency when it was literally just me, and I did have to sublet and outsource things.
Right.
They're still a client now to this day, and it's kind of fun. They've been able to watch me go from 1 employee to 30 to just them to having clients all over the country. It's just been a wild ride. And then, interestingly enough, I was doing a radio and television. And they came to me and said, hey, when are you going to be our digital ad agency too? Because we don't want to have multiple vendors. And I said, today. And they said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I'll figure it out. Like, it's just really about what's the need. And then if there's a need, as a leader, you just have to figure it out. I mean, that's what I tell people sometimes. Stop asking. Like, I don't know how to do it. I'm not sure how to do it. I don't think it's possible. We don't have that. We don't have that capability. Look, if the market's asking for it and you think there's a place for it, then gosh dang it, figure it the dang out, and you're going to be fine.
Well, I'll tell you
and that was my attitude. So then we turned into a full service agency. We went from direct mail to radio, television, to then graphics, to then a full digital suite. And then we turned in really last year to a performance agency. We added that level to the deal. So we don't just advertise anymore. We advertise, consult, help manage performance of the dealership.
Yeah. And, and I love how you said performance agency, because one of the reasons that we decided that we hired you guys and that Cars Her Way is working with you is because you're a performance agency, and you showed us at every step of the turn how to create leads for our dealer partners, which of course we get to roll out tomorrow, which I'm so excited. Like, you're like, Lisa, at this,
it's
going to
awesome.
be 30 to 100 leads for every single dealer. And here's how we do it. And here's how we're going to deliver. And I was like, I've never had an agency tell me that before. I've never had I've never worked with an agency that said, we're going to, you do this, Lisa, or your clients do this. We are going to deliver this many leads to them, period, end of story. I talked to one of my dealers over the weekend. He was like, no way. I'm like, yeah, way. I didn't even know what else to say, because he had never heard it either. And he's a pretty big dealer here in Texas. And so I think that is, to me, I think that's what it gets down to at the end of the day. There are so many people out there spinning their wheels and creating stuff. But at the end of the day, how are we measuring it, right? How are we, we can measure analytics and VDPs and all of those things. But to your point that you told me a month ago, it's like, but it gets down to how many leads are you putting in their hands and butts and seats? And I think that's your superpower, Troy Spring. And everything you do and everything you've created for us, and that I've seen that you've created for other people, everything drives either a phone call, a text, a lead. Help me out here.
No, that's okay. So Lisa, I'm super pumped that you were paying attention and listening in town.
I am listening.
So yeah, our whole philosophy is there's 5 conversational conversions. So as an agency, I think it's our job to start a conversation with a customer for the dealership at the end of the day. If they go to the website, fantastic. If they search a VDP, fantastic. If they scroll and they spend time on site and pages viewed and, all these other metrics. I mean, I get it. We pay attention to those things and they matter. But at the end of the day, the dealer glazes over when you give him a presentation. And here's some secret sauce for anybody listening. I mean, I'll drop it and it's okay. Steal it, whatever, it's fine. But our whole agency runs off 5 conversational conversions, which is how many people did we start a conversation with for that dealer about buying a car? And so everything we track is, like you said, a text, a chat, a phone call, a lead form, or a walk-in. There's really no other way to start a conversation with a customer, except for maybe the 6th way if somebody wanted to consider online retail a 6th way. But in a way that turns into a lead, which is the form lead, in my opinion. So we still just count it as, if they have online retail, we still call it a form lead. But if somebody sends you an email and says, hey, I'm interested in buying a car, we get them to the website and chat set up properly, and we send good quality traffic to the site and we increase chats. There's more conversations. Texting, I think, is huge. I think everybody loves to text. I think it's underutilized for sure. So we're just looking for ways to start that conversation with a client. And all of my employees, I think, that wasn't just my mantra. That's Dealer World's DNA. Dealer World's DNA.
I sat at a table with all of your SEO team, your social media team, the graphic designer, the Cars Her Way, performance manager, your wife, everybody. And there's like 15 of us at this, and the table's a whole nother story. We can get into it another time. but sitting at that table, and every one of your team was like, Lisa, everything we have to do on that website has to drive an action. It has. I've never, and I mean, Troy, I mean, you know the level I've sat at in meetings I've sat at with the head of the marketing committee for an OEM, and as I'm sitting there, I've never heard the things I heard sitting in small town Lehighton, Pennsylvania.
You just can't get over the small town thing. I really should have taken you out for some barbecue or something.
Because I have to tell you, I think of, and maybe this is a prejudice to mine, and I'm going to get blown up on it. I'm used to it.
Oh, look, I get it. I know where you live.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, meaning like the town and the city and how much different than my small town America. Well,
but it makes you, because I said to you, I said, where do you find these fabulous people? Where do you find this team that is so smart, so enlightened, that every word that would come out of my mouth, everything we did for our website that you all built, everything we did, they would say, Lisa, how does that drive a lead? I mean, everybody at your table would question what I said. How does that drive a lead? How does that drive an action? How does that drive a phone call? How does that drive? I mean, I was like, it was like insane, but you're right. Oh my God. I'm so excited for this thing to launch tomorrow. I can hardly stand it, because everything we do now drives a lead to our partner, right? Every action.
That's what they need. I mean, right? That's what they need. They don't need VDP views. Don't get me wrong. Somebody's going to argue that point and say more VDP views sells more cars. I get it. 100%. I get it. But if you don't have leads, how do you take a proactive stance of following up with that customer, take your own destiny in your own hands, and then set an appointment and bring them in? And that's where the performance part of our model comes in. Is we'll sit with the dealer and say, hey, look, you had 7,000 website visitors. We generated, and these are actually real numbers from a client of ours from last month, 7,111 visitors to their site, not a lot, medium-sized store, and 700 leads out of 7,000 visitors. A 10% what we call user conversion rate into one of those 5 conversational conversions, which then turns into a lead.
But isn't that the same true for any business? So Troy, if somebody's on here right now and they're not in the automotive industry, but they've got a business, they're an entrepreneur, I don't know why I act like some of the stuff you all said to me, I heard for the first time in my life, but it was, and I did, sitting at that table with your team in small town USA. And, but it shouldn't every business be in the business of everything they do drives a phone call, a text, a chat, a lead.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, right? And I think there's so much what I want to call it ego marketing, but I don't know that that's the right word, and you would know better. But there's so much of out there, people like, look at me, beat my chest, but then there is no action behind it. There is no conversion behind it. And man.
Well, everything that we do traditionally, as an example, too, we try to drive, that's what drives a walk-in at the end of the day. I mean, it can drive a phone call, and it can drive a text if you're using technology, and we do a lot of that. But at the end of the day, what we do to try to drive walk-ins, as an example, And this is good for any business.
I
So
was gonna
this
say, I mean,
isn't just,
look at Terry Collins. He's saying this can apply to any business like real estate. Heck
oh
yeah,
my
I mean,
gosh,
real
yes.
estate's cars, boats,
You have to do something inspiring. We call this, here's another little nugget for everybody. We call this the Saturday morning test. I train every single one of my employees and our team members. They're awesome. You met them. But I train every single one of them. Look, you have to be able to defend for me what you did. So the dealer's spending money, one of our mantras is we'll spend their money wisely. So if I come to you and say, hey, this ad, I'm not really in love with it. Why did you do this? They have to be able to defend it. And what they have to be able to defend for me is called the Saturday morning test. And the Saturday morning test is simple. Mr. and Mrs. Buggins wake up on Saturday morning and they say, honey, it's time to go buy a car. Where do you want to go? Now, again, this could be real estate. This could be boats. This could be, it doesn't matter. Insurance doesn't matter. What you have to do is inspire that customer, that end user to say, honey, I think we should go to XYZ business because. And if there's no because, if there's no inspiration, if there's nothing behind that meat and potatoes, right, that says, I think I'm going to get more for my trade. I think they're going to help me get approved. I think I can afford that payment. They said they can do it with no money down. They said it doesn't matter how many miles are on my car. As an example, my whole team is trained on the 4 automotive hooks. And that's what they do. They say, hey, no. We're going to get Mrs. Buggins to tell Mr. Buggins on Saturday morning, this is the dealership to go to because, and then they have defended their ad, in which case I'm okay with it. But if you can't defend it, I don't want to hear it. We've been in business 75 years. We're super good people. Come on down. We've got focuses for $199 a month. We're easy access off of Route 17. Like, none of that matters. There's no inspiration. And Mrs. Buggins is not telling Mr. Buggins, let's go down to that dealership because they're super wicked nice people.
Okay, so then what is Mrs. Buggins' inspiration? Because I agree, because we were just at Jim Ziegler's Internet Battle Plan, and Carrie Wise from TrueCar, our very dear friend, gave a presentation, and it was TrueCar study. And TrueCar said, at the end of the day, they don't care that you're home, that you are family owned. They don't care that they really don't care that you're number one. Customer does not care. They don't care.
Again, that's ego marketing.
Huh?
Again, that's ego marketing.
Yeah. I mean, none of that drives the consumer. It's all about Mrs. Buggins. What are you going to do for me? And so many dealers and so many businesses miss that. I'm number one. We're this, we're that, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Customer doesn't care.
They don't care.
They don't care.
What they care about, okay, so again, I promised you I would throw it all out there. So here's our secret. Remember, I told you, we've flown under the radar for a very long time.
Well, you're not under the radar anymore because you're working with me.
I know, right? So I better get used to it.
I've outed you, Troy Spring. I've outed you.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm happy you have. Thank you. So think about this. A customer walks into a dealership. What do they care about? They're going to say something. The conversation with the dealer is going to be something like, can you get me approved? What are my payments going to be? How much are you going to give me for my trade? How much do I have to put down? Is that the biggest discount you can give me? That's the conversation that a customer's having at the dealer level. And so, I genuinely believe that we have to have that conversation with the client from a marketing perspective. And they have to say, I think they're going to be able to get me approved. It's not a lot of money down. The payments are going to be reasonable. They're going to give me a huge discount. And it inspires that confidence. But we do it in ways that wrap it a little bit more interesting and memorable and inspiring.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a nugget here that I got from your team. So I was really intent on the Cars Her Way over the last year that car buying was going to be fun.
By the way, I like Mr. Ziegler's comment here.
I know you have to give it to Alpha Dog. I'm just impressed he's watching. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim, keep them coming. I love it. That's awesome.
So I was so intent, and this is, car buying is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And I sat around the table. I'm kind of outing myself here, but that's okay, because that's what founders do, right? We listen and we learn, and then we get better. But your team sat there, and especially Danielle, and she said, who is your graphic designer who works for us and does all.
She's our creative director. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she said, Lisa, I'm sorry. I disagree with you on car buying. Should it be fun? Sure. But at the end of the day, it needs to be easy. She's like, every time I've had to buy a car, it has been under duress. Either we've wrecked one, something's happened. Like, it's not fun. And so stop trying. I mean, she was really like,
well, yeah, and that comes from a lot of the training that we do around here, because I go like, let's look at the word. People don't go to a car dealership for fun.
Right.
They go to a carnival, they go to their friend's house, they go hang out and have dinner and a drink or two, but they don't go to a car dealership to have fun. They go to they want it to be easy. They want it to be easy.
And your entire team, and then your wife, everybody jumped in on me and they're like, Lisa, it just needs to be easy. Make it easy for me, and I'm going to be your customer. So, I think that's where collaboration comes in. So, we made a pretty big pivot on our messaging.
Oh, we sure did.
Yeah, to make it easy, effortless, efficient, because time is everything, right? So I went from this crazy long value statement to easy, efficient, and effortless. Boom. I mean, really make it easy, value my time, and then make it effortless. Give me someone who is trained on your values, your code of ethics, that knows what they're doing. And I'll tell you what, you just got a big shout out, Troy Spring. Jim Ziegler says he's learning.
Well, that's
pretty good.
I got no words for that. That's awesome.
No words. I'm just telling you. So I think that, what was her name again? Sitting there in small town USA, Mrs. What?
Well, I've been calling customers Mr. and Mrs. Buggins for years.
Okay. I actually call them Susie Lunch Bucket. So, but Mrs. Buggins, if Mrs. Buggins knows on a Saturday morning that she's got to go buy a car, doesn't she just want it to be easy? Like, just, man, make it easy for me. You guys, throw me some hearts. Show me out there that if you believe that the best value statement that we can give a customer, especially a female customer, is make it easy. Like,
make it easy.
Don't mess with me, man. Just give me a fair price.
Straightforward, easy. And then the other kicker to that we talked about a lot was
6 hours, right? Don't want to be there for 6 hours.
The one thing that dealers can be egotistical about right now, to be fair, and we're pretty big on this too, is Google reviews. I mean, it's so credible, it's so relevant this day and age, that if you want to be egotistical about something and lend credibility to the offers that you're putting out there, what you want to do is just say, kind of somehow introduce, we're a 4.7 star dealer, or whatever the case might be. That's the extent of the ego that we really put in ads.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So, and I don't think
that you can tell that you should be screaming at the top of your lungs.
If you're a 4.7, if you're a 5, if you're a 3, you should be trying to be like, we're not going to talk about that, right?
Well, yeah, but here's the kicker. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of great agencies in the country, for what it's worth. I mean, you know how I feel. There's room for enough. I don't have the ego to say I'm going to beat somebody up or speak ill of somebody. There's just a lot of good competition and good companies out there. But, one of the things that we do, and I think all of them should be doing, to really truly help a dealer, is if that dealer's got hypothetically a $50,000 budget for the month, and they are 3.8 stars with 72 reviews, they should 100% say to the dealer, you now have a $49,500 budget. We're going to take the $500 and fix your reputation. Because I think the money spent there would be better off spent when you inspire a customer, Mrs. Buggins as an example. She could look at Mr. Buggins and say, hey, I think we should go down to this dealership because I feel it's going to be easy. I feel like they're going to give us a great deal. I feel like all these things. And now we've won the customer. And then they go check the Google reviews and they're 3.8 and we lose the customer. So that's the one thing I think a dealer should do is really make sure. And there's been a big movement on it. It's way better than it was. But there's still some out there that need to move the needle. And look, you might be 4.4 stars. But if you have 100 reviews and your closest competition is 4.7 with 500 reviews, you still got some game to play there.
Right.
So it really, I do think that's the one thing that dealers need to work on egotistically, is saying, I've got awesome Google reviews and my Google My Business page is set up properly and it looks good. And so when somebody does check them out, kind of spot checking them for credibility, that we don't lose the $50, $60, $80, $100,000 a month that the dealer's spending in advertising because we just lost them at the Google review door. So that's the one thing I think is important.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable. Okay, so I'm going to pivot you off of business for a minute, and I'm going to talk about personal. What is right now, today? There's somebody out there, somebody watching this, and you guys and gals, go ahead and share this out, because now we're going to get to the good stuff. somebody's out there today and they're working for somebody else in whatever business, right?
Sure.
And they've got this dream of becoming an entrepreneur, because you and I both worked for other people, and then we went out on our own and built very successful businesses. But it ain't easy, is it? First of all,
it is not easy.
Not easy. But what would be the 3 steps, the first 3 steps? Because I get emails all the time. There's a few people I coach and mentor, and they're in the throes of trying to start their dream in their business. And I'm all about, I would rather try and fail than not try and live with regret, right? So what would be the first 3 steps, maybe from one of your books or from something else, that you would give someone to encourage them to go out on their own?
Yeah. First, I would say make sure that whatever path that you're going down, you're qualified for. I mean, I think that some people go, hey, I'm going to be, and again, no offense, I'm not saying anything to anybody. You throw me in
be offensive.
You throw me in a limelight here, but as an example, in our business, there's an awful lot of sales trainers. There's an awful lot of consultants. There's an awful lot of and I'm not saying any of them are good or bad. Just make sure if you're going to go down that road that you're qualified for that. If you want to start a car wash, make sure you're qualified for that it's a good lane for you to go. I do think that's important. It's just because you want to be a rock star doesn't mean you can sing. So first and foremost, make sure that it's something you're good at, because you're going to need to be good at. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I would say success starts with a decision. That was in my book. That was in Turbocharge Your Life. It's one of my favorite quotes that I've ever come up with. It's, look.
Are you sure Frank Lopes didn't come up with that quote?
No, I don't know. Frank, did you come up with that quote? Because if you did, just type it in the little comments there and I'm good. Whatever, you can have it. I'm not even going to fight. I like Frank too much. So success starts with a decision. And all I mean by that is, if you're going to do it, and you better decide. I mean, you literally better decide that what you're going to do, you're not looking back. It has to be a primal decision at every core level of your body and your mind. You've got to get support from your family. You met Brittany. She'd live in a cardboard box with me if I failed. We have this funny thing that we talk about. And I did say to her, and this is no joke, this is not funny. This is how hard it is to build a business. I would say 5 years ago, so I was 5 years in, we probably had 4 employees. Because I didn't have an employee for the first 4 years, for what it's worth. I was just selling direct mail, and it was so really we started the Dealer World Ascent maybe 6 years ago. So 5 years ago we had 4 employees. And I remember going to her saying, would you live in a cardboard box with me if I lose everything? And she said, yes, I would just want you to buy me crayons so I can decorate it.
Oh, I love Brittany.
So if you don't have that support, you're also kind of screwed. Because there are days where I thought I was going broke again.
Right.
And but I had made that decision. And so third, if because you asked me for 3, 1 is make sure you're qualified. 2 is make a decision. And, really 3 for me is project out. You need, like, if somebody said to me, why do you think you made it? I would say the most important part wasn't that I was qualified. I knew that. It wasn't that I had decided. That was fairly easy for me. I'm a motivational speaker by trade, so to speak. Not that I do tons of it, but that's who I am. It was that I knew exactly what it looked like in the end. Like, you have to have a projection, and you have to know. It kind of goes to that, like The Secret, that book. I mean, people think those things are crazy, to the laws of attraction, those types of things. I don't think that's crazy. As you know, because we talked a lot about it, I meditate. I visualize. I literally have written out what my 100th birthday looks like, thanks to Renee Stewart, when she coached me a little bit, went through some tough times. So I know exactly what my 100th birthday looks like. I know who's there. Yeah, it's an awesome exercise. Renee taught me this exercise, and it shaped my life. It 100% changed my life.
So share it with everybody.
Yeah, so I would do this. and this helps you with your career path too, because it'll tell you if you're on the right path. Renee, when I hired her for coaching, and by the way, find Renee Stewart. I'm a huge fan. She changed my life, and I don't tell her enough. So go tell her I said it. But the one really cool thing I got out of that whole training with her was to sit in a quiet place, close my eyes, and view my 100th birthday. And what she wanted me to do was to see every little detail of what my 100th birthday looked like. And so I sat there, and it was, where am I sitting? Why am I sitting there? Who's there with me already? Who's walking up the driveway? Who's arriving? What does my daughter, who's 25 now, look at like at 73? Does she have kids? What are they saying about me? Who else is there? And so you don't necessarily force it. You don't want it to be like, oh, well, I want it to look like this, so I'm going to visualize that. You kind of let it just flow, like in a meditation, almost like a meditative state. And then it's kind of cool. Like all of a sudden I would see my daughter speaking to someone, and the conversation I would hear would be, I'm glad I met your dad. He changed my life, and my kids and my wife have a better life because I met him. And that's because that's what I stand for. Our mantra at Dealer World is personal and professional growth for all. I live it every day. I want every one of our employees to succeed. I want them to get what they want out of life.
But Troy, and I'm going to stop you there, because you and I had a conversation about some sidebar things, and you want it so bad for people that work for you, that are in your life. It even means they may have to leave you to do it, and you wish them well because you want to stay true to your personal and your corporate mantra.
Look, it might screw me over someday, but everybody at Dealer World, and if they don't know it, they should. So hopefully they're listening too. If they can better their life and it's outside of Dealer World's realm, I will help them transition out. I will help them get a job. I will give them a great reference. I'll hug them on the way out the door. I would ask that they tell me, come and say, hey, look, this isn't working for me. I'm going to leave in 30, 45 days. I'm looking for a job. I don't want them to lie to me about having to go to an interview. I think that's just horrible culture at a company. So for years, we've told people, and I'm not sure, we don't lose that many employees for what it's worth. I mean, we have a really good retention rate. But I do tell them point blank, if you want to leave, just come tell me. I won't blow you out on the spot. I'll help you transition out. I'll make sure you don't get hurt financially. You can help me replace you, and then we'll hug on the way out the door, and I'll wish you the best. Because I really don't believe that I can retain everybody forever. I think that at some point, some people are going to grow, and it would be horrible for me to stifle them and their careers for their family. So that's up to me. My job, that's why I work so hard. I don't want them to leave. And so people have asked me, like, why are you still so driven? Because I told you, I like my life. I don't really need much more than what I have.
Right.
So why am I still grinding away and pushing so hard is because if I don't, and leaders with companies that are small to medium size, listen to this, I beg you, please, because you will lose good people if you don't think like this. You better continue to grow your company to give them opportunity. If you don't, they're gone. And then you're really screwed.
Yeah.
So, we really, really work hard at making sure that everybody that says to me, this is where I want to be in 5 years, that becomes part of what's important to me in the company.
And how often, Troy, do you have those conversations with your employees? How often do you sit down and say, here's your career track, or what is it you want to do, or where is it you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I don't think we do the best job of that because we're so communicative on a daily basis.
Right.
But we have a review in the fall, which is coming up. That review is not a merit increase review. It is a performance review of how you're doing with your job. And that's a time where we can sit down and ask them and get some feedback from them of how they're doing, what's important to them and where they're headed. And then in the springtime, we have another one that would be a merit increase timeframe. So twice a year.
Okay, well, that's good. And I would say, that's more than most people would do. So kind of as we're wrapping up today, what, you had said your age, you said you're 51. What is the toughest life lesson that you had to learn, in your whole life? What was the toughest thing that hit you in the face and you said, man, I'm never going to do that again, life or business?
So
Stumped Troy Spring. Wow.
yeah, well, because this is really super personal. So, but I told you I'd give it. I told you I'd give it my all. So I'm in the process of writing another book now, and it's one that I don't want to write. And so this is kind of the first time I've ever mentioned this ever. I don't know how long it'll take me to get through it because I want it to be good. But I don't want to write this book because it's self-reflection on the fact that I can be a bit of an asshole at times. Part of my language. I don't mean to swear but I mean, it's a fact. I don't swear much, as you well know, you know, especially socially and whatnot. But, you know, being a leader and doing what I've done, I'm used to getting what I want. Right. So, and that's part of what we talked about. I have a process to get what I want. So in my life, there have been times where I do have regrets of how forward I've been with, you know, family, wife, kids, etc. I'm a good guy. I mean, that's the bottom line of the book is I'm a good guy. I care. You know, my wife loves me. I love her back, but I could be a better person. And so one of the regrets that I have, to answer your question directly, is I have the regrets of not being able to turn off work and who I am and how good I am at that at home. And so it wasn't long ago, my kids and wife were sitting around our table at home and somebody said, you know, let's play a game. Let's, you know, use one word to describe Lisa or, you know, your dad or Brittany or each other. And when it got to my wife, she said exhausting about me. And I thought, wow, that sucks. She didn't say love. She said I'm exhausting.
Hence the name Turbo.
Well, yeah. And the bad part was I took it as a compliment.
Troy, that's bad.
What's that?
I said, yeah, that's not good.
Right. So look, this is the truth. I mean, you know, I am 51. I've learned a lot of lessons. This weekend, that was about a year ago. This weekend, I was out with my wife, and she doesn't know, but I mean, she's going to listen. Maybe, I don't know. So maybe she'll get mad at me for this. But I point blank asked her, "Am I doing better?" And she said, "Yes, you're doing better."
Aww.
And that matters. So, you know, a life lesson that I would warn people of. There is a whole chapter in my book, Turbocharge Your Life, about balance, and I didn't live a very balanced life for a number of years. It consumed me growing this company. It consumed me the pressure it took to make payroll. It consumed me because I care about our dealer partners, and I would get just flaming mad if anybody did something that like caused anything that didn't help our customers go in the right direction. I don't think I handled some of those situations the best for a few years. And I regret that. And I look back at it and I will never be that guy again. I have learned how, and I think my staff and my wife and everybody, one of the reasons I'm saying it right now is self-motivation for me and self-accountability. I'm throwing it out there right now to an awful lot of people that I want to be a better person. And I think that some people, you know, if I can give some advice, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself if you're as good a person as you really think you are, because I thought I was. But I had some work to do, and I still have some work to do on that. But you know, that's simply because I take business so serious that it was transferring to home, and I've really learned how to balance that out a little better, including the dog my wife got me. That certainly helped.
Yes, well, but I saw on Facebook that now you're looking to hire a dog walker. I was like,
well, yeah, because I love the dog and I want the dog to have a better life too.
I know, but I was like, but remember we had talked about like you going home and trying to break away to walk the dog.
Oh, so. I know I do, but there are days I simply can't. So I do try to break away a little bit more, and I do have a much more balanced life. And that's in part because of the employees are just so awesome. I mean, the business is far beyond anything that I can just do every day. You know, there's 30 of them grinding out a ton of tasks and doing a wonderful job. So I am able to take just a little bit more time. But yeah, I would say I lived a very, very unbalanced life. I don't think that I was the human being that I really, really wanted to be for a few years. And I look back at that, have some regrets. And at the end of the day, it's working out. It's going the right direction again.
You know, and I think that's the biggest thing for moving forward or for, you know, evolving as people is the fact that we can say it out loud and say, hey, you know, I mean, I'm the worst. I'm the most distracted human you ever want to meet in your life. And I kind of had the same thing with my family where they were like, you know, my husband especially, he's like, get off the phone, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, I think we had that during the Cowboys game last night. I'm like, but I've got these people texting me. I got to talk. And he's like, put it down. Put it down.
Right.
Walk away from that phone. It's Sunday night, but I'm like, but. And I think that there is that whole entrepreneur in us. And I think that's, you know, and you and I are both very type A personalities, and it's that,
yeah.
right? So it's very hard to, like, I don't know what I would do. That's why I teach you about small town USA. I loved it. Jim Thornton, you took us to dinner there, walked around that great little town and Poconos Mountains. Like, it's beautiful. But the whole time I'm sitting there, first of all, my Wi-Fi was sketchy. And trying to text,
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm just,
I love that bugged you.
It did. It set me over the side. And I thought, what do these people do all day after they walk up and down and look at all the cute little shops? What do you do? Like, how do you do business? And that's really not good. If that's the first thing out of your mind is, how do you do business and my Wi-Fi doesn't work? Right.
Right.
So
well, hey, so
there's
a bit of a quote that goes to that whole little thing that I just talked about. And, you know, what you do is not who you are. And I think that what I did for a living and do for a living consumed me so much that that's who I was for a number of years. And right. I think that's where the dog comes in. That's where the small town comes in. That's where, you know, being married to a woman that would live in a cardboard box with me if we fail comes in. That's where self-reflection meditation comes in. And I look at it and I go, you know, I don't want to be 65 years old and that was who I am. You know, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a person. I like to play golf. There's things that I do outside of dealer world. And so for anybody that maybe thought what I talked about there was a little over the top or didn't make sense, look, at the end of the day, the simplicity of that one is what you do is not who you are. Make sure that you spend time being who you are.
I mean, I think it's time to wrap up, because I think that's probably the most important thing you could say. And, you know, because so many of us, you know, and I've been asked that before, you know, if you didn't do what you did, who
right.
are you? Like, who is Lisa that is just like, you know, and I don't even know that I could answer that today because I live what I do 24/7. And so I don't know what I would be or who I would be. You
need to listen to some Deepak Chopra.
I think I do.
Yeah. I mean, he does this whole thing about you're not your ego, you're not your reputation. You know, like if people say, what's your reputation? You could say it, but ask 100 people. It's a totally different answer from everybody.
You bet.
So, and you're not your ego. You're not who you think you are. Like if you strip your title away and tomorrow you don't have cars her way and you can't work in the car business anymore, who are you? And I think that once I've figured that out a little bit about myself, I still got a long ways to go. But I do think that's helping me be a better leader in the role that I'm in now. I do.
Right. Well, thank you. And
I'm sending you a Deepak book.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. And that, you know, last but not least, we had a real funny little story from when I was in Pennsylvania. So Troy's like, hey, I'm going to leave my wife's Lexus with you, Brittany's Lexus, so you have a car to drive around. I'm like, oh my God, Troy, I don't have a car. I have an Uber. I can do Uber. And he's like, Lisa, we don't have Uber in small town US.
Well, we do. We have like one, but what if you couldn't get it?
You have one, right? And you're like, okay. So day one, I try to get to his office and I end up on the inner loop. I'm 20 miles from the office. So that was hilarious, but that was nothing like Troy taking me to the airport in Philly and me sitting in security. No, I wasn't even security. I was boarding the plane and I realized I'd missed a call from Troy. So bad.
This is pretty classic, by the way.
Oh my God. I missed a call from Troy. And so I call him back. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, do you have the key to the Lexus? Now, Troy had driven me to the airport in the Lexus, but he drove. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I stopped to go to the bathroom and I can't start the car.
40 miles from my house, from the office. I was going back to the office.
God. So anyways, you know, so you have to find humor sometimes in what you do. And
that was classic. We got through it. We were good.
Well, you know, and you're so busy and whatever. So yeah. But anyways, I want to thank you. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You really, really brought things out of me. Number one, that nobody ever has when it comes to my business and Cars Her Way, and your team absolutely helped us make the biggest pivot we've ever made. We can't wait for tomorrow, for October 1st, because now I feel bad for anyone that's not doing business with us, because we're gonna, we're gonna destroy the competition. And when it comes to,
well, you got a great brand, you know that you're the gecko.
I'm the
Nobody
gecko.
knows what that means.
That's a whole other story.
Some more fun. Another story, another day.
Another
But
story,
no, you
another
got a
day.
great brand. We are beyond honored and proud to work with you. And we're going to crush it.
Yeah, we're going to crush it. It's unbelievable. Well, Troy, thank you so much. How do people, I'm going to go ahead and put this back up. How do people, like somebody's out there, so is automotive all y'all do? I had somebody ask me that the other night.
We just did some direct mail for a church. We've done a little bit of work for restaurants in the past. I think a lot of what we do, quite frankly, I think everything that we do for the most part is transferable to another industry. Be glad to talk to anybody, even if it's just for help or advice or counsel or something, no matter where it goes. We definitely stay in automotive because there's so much opportunity there.
There is.
It's a big world, as you know, as we always talk, 17,000 dealers in the United States. I haven't pivoted out to another vertical yet, because although I think it would be easy, and I just think that it would take focus away from what we're currently doing. But well, I think it's all transferable to other industries for sure.
Just for the record, if this excites you at all, under the Her Way brand, we own boats Her Way, we own Harleys Her Way, we own motorsports Her Way, we own RVs Her Way, we own real estate Her Way, we own house buying Her Way, we own it all Her Way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Dealer World's going to have to make some sort of pivots, I think, as the Her Way brand continues to expand.
We're going to go find another third office in this small town so that we're ready for you.
Yeah, either that or and then I think I'm gonna have to buy a small house up there. So anyways, Troy, thank you so much for getting up this morning. I've got Troy's contact information. It'd just be troy@dealerworld.com. Is that right?
It's Troy Spring at mydealerworld.com.
Oh, okay.
Long funny story about why I don't own dealerworld.com. I used to, way back in the day before I knew that you had to, I'm talking 20 years ago or so, before I had any clue that you had to continually re-register the domain. So
I had to buy my name back once because I goofed.
Well, they wanted $500,000. I was not in.
Oh my, okay.
Well, think about it, GM Dealer World, right? So I had an awesome domain name and I lost it. So, but that goes back 20 years. There's another lesson I learned. Register your domain. There
you go, and keep up with it. So it'll be Troy Spring at mydealerworld.com.
Correct.
Yeah, Michelle, I know you're out there. Will you put that up in the comments, please? So if you all want to get a hold of Troy, talk to him, just tap into his brilliance, the brilliance of his team. I highly recommend them. And so anyways, Troy, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everybody, I will see you next Monday morning. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye.